Good morning. Thank you for joining the Thursday, June 7th VOLTHA call. And today we do have a demo planned and then some sprint planning as well, and some discussion on technology profiles planned also. So a reminder to everyone, we do record the sessions and post them later to the VOLTHA playlist on YouTube. So keep that in mind during the presentations and discussions if you're sharing your screen also. With that, I think we will start today. The first agenda item we have is a demo of the first version of the broadband simulator from Keita-san. So I'm going to go ahead and make Keita presenter. And then Keita-san, you should see a pop-up window on your screen to accept presentation rights.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, I see your calendar right now.
Okay. I think you can see. Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. I'd like to explain how BBSim works. BBSim is an abbreviation of broadband simulator, and it emulates the control message response of OOTs and ONUs, which are connected to OpenRT adapter. This emulator can be used for the scalability test, of VOLTHA. Yeah, and can you see my screen? Okay. The left side of this screen is for the VOLTHA and the right side of this screen is for BBSim. Unfortunately, the current version of the BBSim is not supporting for the Kubernetes mode, so the VOLTHA is now running with VOLTHA ensemble mode. So let me see. Okay, when we run the BBSim, we can configure the number of OOTs and the number of ONUs per point of face and the number of point of faces. So the n means the number of OOTs and the small n represents the number of point of face attached to the OOT, and the small I represents the number of ONUs per point of faces. So when we after executing pre-provision OOT commands and enable commands from VOLTHA CLI, the BBSim emulates the enable process and the activation process of ONUs. And oops, sorry, I'm not sure about this. Okay, just a moment.
Is there any way you could make the font larger in both your screens?
Sorry?
Can you make your font larger in both screens?
Andy, you're not that old.
I'm the oldest guy on the call.
Hey, you're younger than me.
Oops, just a moment. Okay. Sorry, I think it should become enable. Sorry, it should become a successful status. However, I'm not sure why it remains waiting for device to be enabled. However, anyway.
Keita, I think your command, the pre-provision command, there seems to be some typo in it. The pre-provision -t and then again a pre-provision -t.
Sorry.
Yeah, that part, yes.
Sorry, could you repeat it again, Shadow?
Yeah, is there a typo in that command that you entered? Pre-provision OLT-T. Again, there's a pre-provision OLT.
This is like how can I say? This is yeah, no problem about it.
So
just a screen.
Is this actually have a device there, or even the OLT is simulated, right?
Yes, that only emulates the behavior of control message response. So from the viewpoint of the OpenOLT adapter, the BBSim can be regarded as OLT.
Okay.
Does it make sense? Okay. So anyway, from the both CLI, we can see that the list of the OLT and ONUs like this. Sorry, yeah, I want to investigate why this status doesn't become successful.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, the demonstration is like that. Thanks.
So basically, you run the BBSim first on the right side.
Yes.
And then you provision the OLT, and then it will come up.
Yes.
Okay.
So Kieta there is obviously I think there's no OMCI messaging. Does this BBSim understand any OMCI message?
Not currently.
Okay.
Currently, the BBSim can understand the enable indication and some indications message in the activation process and heartbeat message from OpenOLT adapter.
And right now, do you support more than one OLTs?
I implemented this broadband simulator, which can emulate the multiple OLTs. However, as far as I know, the current OpenOLT adapter doesn't support the multiple OLT set configuration, so I demonstrate with one single OLT.
Actually, Kieta, Nick from AT&T Foundry just merged a patch yesterday.
Really? Oh, sorry.
Yes, and for multiple OLTs, H-core OLTs, he's tested that. I can later paste the Jira for that. I've not tested it myself, but I've seen the commit and also the Jira being closed. Nick is not here to confirm, but yeah, I've seen the Jira being closed.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Okay, I will try it. And anyway, first of all, I have to investigate. I have to solve the problem about the successful status of this BBSim, right?
So my question, okay, so if I have multiple OLTs, then each simulated OLT need to be pre-provisioned individually, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, if I want to bring up two simulated OLT, then I have to run this command twice on the left window. Is that correct?
No, not exactly, because in this simulator the OLT is emulated by a thread. So the BBSim simulator itself is running by a single process. So you do not need to run twice for each OLT, and it can emulate the two OLTs in one process, in just one execution.
So Kieta, I think
but you still need to run the pre-provision twice.
Sorry, I got it. I guess so. We have to execute pre-provision twice for configuring multiple OLTs.
So yeah, I guess everything we can follow with the script, right? So okay, so that should not be an issue. I'm curious. Maybe next time when I go to ONF, I can sit down with you on this one also. Thank you.
Kieta,
Go ahead.
this is Girish here. I think it would be great if you could emulate OMCI messages as well, because we have seen that there is a lot of processing in the adapters and sending OMCI messages, and that way we could actually, emulate the real environment.
You mean the difficulties of implementing the OMCI message in the BBSim, right?
Not the difficulty. I said if BBSim could also support OMCI.
Oh, really? I got it. Yeah. Whether we should implement whether I should implement the OpenOMCI is under discussion in my team.
Yeah, that's fine. Sometime in the future.
Yeah. Yes, not currently.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Keita?
Yeah, regarding OMCI, I just have a note that it may be pretty simple to have some OMCI functionality with the existing Broadcom ONU adapter, because from what I recall, the Broadcom ONU adapter sends OMCI messages, but OMCI messages from the ONU, it really doesn't parse. Like responses, it just expects a response, but really doesn't parse the response to for its contents. So if your BBSim is kind of using some TCP replay or something and just sending an OMCI message, just a dummy OMCI message for the Broadcom ONU adapter is sufficient to spoof it to believe that it's getting a response. But we can talk about that later.
Oh, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I'm not hearing any. So Keita-san, thank you very much for the presentation. I will go ahead and take presentation rights back.
Hey, Julie?
Yes.
It's sure. So would it be possible just to discuss the last point there? I have to drop in
That's fine.
About 5 to 10 minutes for another
that's
meeting.
Fine. So we will jump over to this topic. So this is one we did not have time to get to on Tuesday. So Sean, I will go ahead and hand it over to you. Is it just verbal, or do you have any slides you'd like to show?
Yeah, it's just verbal at this point. I just wanted to discuss the idea and the approach. So this item here is basically thinking we could extend the use of technology profiles to have a profile not only for services but also for interfaces. So, for instance, any PON interface provisioning or any Ethernet interface provisioning or G.fast interface, we could have specific technology profiles for that. I'm looking to put together some examples of this that we can discuss in more detail, but I just wanted to throw that idea out to the community as well. I mean, is this something that's worthwhile pursuing to have a technology profile for specific interfaces? In this case, we don't really have the limitation of the service flow table index. It could be a named profile, or we have much more flexibility with non-service service flow related profiles. So if anyone has any comments or would like to email me on this, just feel free. Okay. I'd also asked Sean Ying to maybe potentially look into, for example, what parameters AT&T would be interested in configuring on the PON interfaces. For instance, FEC, if that's enabled or not, or maybe controlling the DBA mechanism for extended DBA mode, enable, disable. whole bunch of PON-related things that we could control via these profiles as well. Anyway, that was it.
Hey, Sean, it's Phil. Seems like all of that stuff's got to be in there. Maybe not day one, because you can assume it can come on default, but there's no other way to configure that, right? So the profile is the layer one configuration mechanism.
Well, that's right. I mean, we don't have a specific interface for that, and the profile at least allows the adapters to go and grab it out of the KV.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be the only way for an operator to ever change FEC, for example, upstream, downstream FEC enabled, or AES encryption, or several other really low-level, semi-obscure parameters. So I think we have to, over time, at least get all of that rolled in there to the profile somehow.
Okay. So I'm not hearing any objections. I can put together some examples of that, so we can go through what those profiles might look like as well. And if any of the operators have input as well, that would be useful.
I think one of the things that that may be important to consider is whether it's operator-based, in other words, this is the way an operator wants to work, or whether it's instance-based, where you want to tweak every single little parameter on every single little interface. And there's advantages and disadvantages to both, but operationally, it could be advantageous to say, this is what I want my network to do versus I need to twiddle the bits on every single interface.
Sure. I mean,
I think you should probably keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think the profiles will allow you to do both. I mean, you can have a default profile, and then I can create a specific profile for a specific interface if I want to mess around with its parameters. There are some potential restrictions in the, you may have to, if you want to change the way a whole PON interface functions, then you're going to have to, you may have to restart that whole PON, so it's, service affecting in some cases.
Well, and even you may want to have some, this is how I want my PON to start up each and every time, and then if I'm going to troubleshoot a specific customer's installation, I might, go down to that one specific customer. But in general, these are the things that I want set whenever I come up. I mean,
sure.
A set of base level configurations or a set of base level profiles that are always used, so that it just always takes into account.
Yeah. Okay.
Question for Sean?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sean, it sounded like you would start putting together some material, and then when you're ready, let's schedule some time on one of the weekly calls to present that to the community. Does that sound acceptable?
Yeah, I'll put some slides together around that.
Great. Thank you. Other questions for Sean before we move on to the next topic? Oh, also, while you're here, Sean, I was going to mention, I believe a follow-up meeting or two on technology profiles is being developed, a plan for another meeting or two. And then I think when we have times set up for that, then we'll probably distribute the info over VOLTHA Discuss so that we can include the larger community as needed. And then if we need to have some time on one of the Tuesday or Thursday calls also, then we can work that in.
Yeah, I'm trying to dump everything into the Epic. Obviously recordings cannot be put there directly, but just maybe a link to the recordings might be there.
Okay.
So Vol 731, I think, is the Epic for technology profiles. So all the documentation, all the presentations, everything I'm trying to put into that one.
Great.
Epic.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Okay.
With that, I think we'll go on to our next topic. We did detailed review of the items for Sprint 2, which we're expecting to close out on Friday, which is tomorrow. But I know there were a couple updates I want to go over, and then I'll just do a quick roundtable for folks if there are any additional updates that have come in since Tuesday or any obstacles that we need to discuss. So if I go over to Sprint 2, then let me see who I've got on the call. I don't see, is Don Newton on? I don't think I see Don. Okay, and then Ben Kata, I do see you're on. All right, so I wanted to go look at one of the issues that you had. If I can find it here, 651. I believe we have the review in Garrett now, and it has a +1.
Yeah. Yeah, I've raised the review request right now. This and mostly once it is done, yeah, I think we can close it.
Okay, so I was looking for who we need to do the +2 on this one. Do we have, let's see, I don't see, I was looking for Jono. I don't think I see Jono on the call either, so I may have to follow up afterwards. I did want to point this one out for folks since it was in and we're getting close to the close of the sprint. Hopefully we can get this one folded in time. So any other comments from the group on this? It looks like I may have to follow up offline with folks. Okay, and then, yes, question, comment?
And Jono is the only reviewer on this module, right? I wonder whether we need more people to be on the list. I think this is one of the tickets that issued by Luca. So let's see whether someone from ONF can verify it.
Okay. All right. So we'll check. I don't think Luca's on this call.
No, he's been traveling too. So.
Okay. Thanks, Sean. And then there were a couple updates on OpenOMCI issues I wanted to bring up also, but we may need to follow up with folks offline. I know that, so Chip had given me some updates prior to the call because he had a conflict for the first part of the meeting. And so I wanted to look at 868 first. So this one, we had, I think there'd been some issues on Tuesday. It ends up that the wrong patch had been linked to this. So this has been corrected, and now there's an open Garrett for review, and that is in there and ready to be reviewed. And then once this one is closed, then there's another in the wings waiting to be submitted. But that has to, it looks like there can only be one open one from Chip at a time for submits. And so he needs this one to be reviewed and closed out before he can submit the change for VOLT 702. So I think the top priority on the OpenOMCI side right now for review is getting this item completed so that it can go on to the next one, hopefully completing in this sprint. So Sean Ying, I think probably will need to follow up afterwards with Don and see if we can get a status on the review.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. So before I move on, then, any other questions on what I just discussed about the OpenOMCI issues? So there was that, and then 703, I think was, or 702 was the next one that was waiting to be submitted once the Garrett review closes out on 868. Okay. Then I think the next thing I'll do, those are the ones where I had seen updates that came in since Tuesday. Other things may have come in and I missed them, but I wanted to check just roundtable with folks who have open issues right now in Sprint 2, if everything's on track for the ones, or if any status has changed since Tuesday, basically, regarding expectations for Sprint 2. Okay, I am not hearing any changes, so last call for questions on Sprint 2 from the larger community for the open issues that we have. All right, then I think what we can do next is go over to our next topic, which is Sprint 3 planning. So I did open the placeholder for Sprint 3. And what we'd like to do is something we haven't had a chance to do for a while, which is start looking at the backlog and trying to, is there a question?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm just giggling. We have not done this for a while.
Yes, so trying to squeeze in some time with sprint planning here so we can take a look at the defects in particular, since I think for the major items that are open, the technology leads are doing a good job of pulling the items into the sprints with the pre-planning work that we do. So I thought first priority we should do is probably go over the open defects and see what can be pulled in. So we've been doing some cleanup over the last couple of weeks, trying to move some items out of 2.0, trying to identify stale items and close them out if they're no longer relevant, and so forth. So even with that, there's still a bunch of cleanup I think that needs to be done. Oh, actually, let's see. This one's on the top here, not a defect, but this one I think we're still waiting for a related JIRA to be opened as well on the core side. So we'll follow up with Jono offline on that also. So the first item that I have in here I think was assigned to Ken back quite a while back. And this one was kind of retargeted for 2.0. And so I wanted to check, Ken, if we have you on, if this is still relevant, still important for 2.0.
It may be. I'm not. It's not a major issue, but if we can clean it up, we will. But not the next sprint though.
Okay. So should this one be? Should the priority be modified? Because right now it's shown as a high priority issue.
No, that's a low priority issue because it's not blocking anything.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and move this one down to low. Any objections from the group?
Okay. With this change, I mean, if what I'm saying is that change everywhere, or is something just a very specific area?
No, it once we change it, it will change pretty much everywhere.
But is that going to be a manual process, or or is something can be done just?
I think it will be a manual process. It's pretty much the way we are going to refer to some of the variables.
Right.
But it's something that we have to try it out and figure out like the true impact, whether it will be a big impact or a small impact.
So do we really? I think that this one was raised by Nokia, right? So in the rationale, do we really need to change this?
Well, what they said was when they were trying to use the C++ compiler for protobuf, they were having issues, and the compiler was claiming that it's the protobuf definition for the states were not what was expected. So ideally, yeah, it needs to be cleaned up. But I don't know how many C++ compiler we're using there for protobuf. But if we can get to it, yeah, sure. I think it's better to have a standard way of defining things.
Okay. But into what?
Go ahead.
But change into what?
No, change it in a format that any protobuf compiler will not have issues with it.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, so we'll move this down in the backlog later, but for now, let's move on to the next one. We do have an issue that was, so Shad, are you on? Let's see. Yes, you are. So this is one I think you had been looking at previously, but was not yet pulled into a sprint. So This one, I think last time we talked about it, we were looking at having 2 separate issues here, and you were going to have some discussion with Jono related to this one. Is this something you think should be pulled in Sprint 3, or is this a lower priority?
Yeah, I don't think it's a very complicated change. So let's. But it's also not very high priority. But let's keep it in Sprint 3, and
Okay.
we'll try to fix it.
Okay. Thank you. And then the next one, VOL 748. This when a logical device is deleted, owner still sees the switch is active. I think we had some discussion on this a couple months back, or 6 weeks or so. So related to this, oh, and this one looks like it was assigned to Jono. So is this one we're looking at for Sprint 3,
this one,
or the?
Well, this one I couldn't actually figure out what the issue was.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, based on the ticket, I don't know what the problem is that he's talking about. So I don't know, maybe we need to go back and try and understand that.
Okay. So.
I guess, is that true? It's just that when you delete logical device on the VOLTHA side, and then owner still didn't get the device it's still showing active. And I guess
well, I haven't seen this behavior. For me, when the logical device goes away, the connection to ONOS goes away.
Right.
Okay. So that one, I will not do anything with it for now until you get clarification. And then next one.
If people from other lab also see I know the Luca is being traveling around, right? So if other people in the lab see the same behavior, please make a comment on the wiki, on the Jira.
Okay, thanks. And then the next item, VOL 749, disabling an OLT in VOLTHA apparently fails, even if in reality it doesn't. So this one, I don't think we had an assignee. So is this one that is, so we're in the medium priorities at this point for the defects. This one's still a medium priority. Does it need to be covered in Sprint 3?
I think, again, this one depends a lot on the behavior of the adapter that was being used, because the adapter is responsible for setting the right state after it performs the operation.
Okay, and then Shad, it actually looks like the last question we had was back to you on if this was still occurring. So this one, I think we will leave it for now until we hear more on the behavior for the adapters. So other questions from the group? Okay, so we'll leave that as is for now. And this one, 752, when you delete an OLT, the ONU does not get deleted. And so I think we had a question, since there had been a related Garrett for this that was closed out. Let's take a look at that quickly. And it looks like this was merged. So is this still an active issue, or is this one actually closed?
I believe this is closed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we will close that one out. I can do that offline. So 752 is closed.
I'll do that for you.
Okay, and if you could move it into Sprint 2 before you close it, since that's where the work was done. That way we help us with our point tracking.
Okay.
Thanks. And then 753, I think this was an item where we were thinking if 752 was done, then this one likely was corrected at the same time. So is there still a way to create an orphan ONU now that 752 has been fixed?
I think if this happens, it's probably a bug in the adapter.
Okay. So I think
So in theory, the 752 fix should mitigate this problem.
Yeah.
But if the adapters don't behave correctly and don't clean up properly, then potentially it's possible to get state stuck in the data store.
And I think in that case, it would be a separate JIRA opened against the specific adapter. Is that your view as well?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then that one we will close. So Sean, if you want to clean up for me while we're doing this, that's great.
I'm trying to figure out how do I move to screen 2.
I'll do that later. Just remind me. Okay. So the next item we have here is one that was changed. I think this is an update that was made by you, Sean, on rephrasing the ask here. This is for VOL 443. There's installer IO setup device busy. And in 1.2, this was an issue. So this was just kind of trying to look at it with 2.0 to see if this still occurs, I believe. So this one, I think there's nothing we can do with it right now because that would have to come when we're ready to look at the installation for this. So I think we defer this one for now till closer to the end of the release. Any comments from anyone else? Okay, 464. So I think this one we still have a question pending for when we have the formal TST established. So I'm not sure if there's anything else we can do on this one today. And this is related to the defect that's open for console leader election does not happen and swarm fails to start. So the open question really is whether we are still going to be supporting Docker swarm mode plus console. So I think this one we'll have to defer pending an answer from the TST once that's formally established. And we're getting ready for I think everyone probably saw the email from Bill Snow about the voter list is being established. That's under review right now. Okay, I think we'll move on to the next one, 438, installer failure cluster push. And this is an intermittent issue. Let me see our last item we had. It was intermittent with Docker Swarm, and so far no one had seen it in the Kubernetes environment. I think we'd asked a few other folks to look at it as well, and have not heard anything back from folks. Do we need to leave this one open a little longer for further investigation from people in various labs? Any views from the group?
On the voter discussed, there was one, I think there's still one lab looking at the Docker node, right? So we responded, said we don't know how long this thing will be sustained. Let's keep it around a little bit.
Okay, so at this point, I think until we get an answer back, let's see. I'll leave it in 2.0 for now, I think, but we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. Okay. 437 was another failure issue. And so Ken, you had a comment back here in April that this had been assigned. Did it get moved? Yes, to Stefan to take a look and see if we have the same issue with Kubernetes. Do you know if we have any additional info on this item?
And we don't have additional information. I think we didn't see that problem, and that's why we don't have any additional information on that one.
Okay. So does that mean we should well, okay, it's back to the issue. Do we just leave this open a little longer related to folks who may be using Docker swarm mode? And again, it's an intermittent issue.
Well, if there's somebody still using it, then if we can get their feedback, that would be good.
Okay. So Sean Yang, I think we'll go ahead and leave this one open again a little longer based on your comment for the previous one. Do we need to leave the priority the same at this point since our focus has moved away from swarm mode?
Let's reduce them.
Okay. I don't know if I can do that on this screen. So 437, let's go ahead and move this down to low. All right.
Well, the members, I know this is boring, but we need to do this. Multitasking. No multitasking.
Trying to find items that we can bring into Sprint 3 since we have a fair number of defects in the backlog. The next one, 3, and I guess for the group, if there are other items that are, or if there's a better way to address this for identifying potential items for Sprint 3 or reprioritizing things, go ahead and speak up now. Otherwise, we'll just continue. I'll give a few seconds for people to respond. Okay, then we will keep going. So 329, OpenFlow 13, incompatible for C++ based components. And so I think the last exchange was between Sean and Jono on this. So do we have any feedback from the larger group on 329? So OpenFlow 13 proto-compiled for C++ produces compile errors that require fixing OpenFlow 13 proto to make it because it's incompatible with C++.
So just curious, why do we need C++ support for OpenFlow for these messages?
I think there was a time when Nokia was building the adapters, and I believe a lot of things that they were doing were running under C++. And since they were making reference to the OpenFlow proto, so they had to compile it in C++ as well. So that's why they were raising those issues.
Okay, thanks, Colin.
Hey Andy, can you go back and check whether is this still relevant for your guy for Nokia?
Which one is it, Sean?
329.
I will.
Thank you. Oh, let's see. I'm not having you pop up here. Okay. Not finding you popping up in the list.
I think Jerry is also on, right? Jerry Travelers.
Yeah. I don't have any info or any knowledge about this, actually.
Okay. So we'll take a look at that one. And if it's not relevant for Nokia, then we will go ahead and close this one out. But we'll get a response from you on that item first. Okay, next one.
So do we have the same issue for the Philip? Are you on? Is Atran OOT adapter has the same issue?
No, not that I'm aware of.
No, yeah, we're down to any C++ currently.
Okay.
Other comments on 329? Okay, 323 is our next one. DH client command is not running an RG container. And so this one, we were checking to see if anyone had seen this, since the folks who have commented had not seen it or have not used the RG Docker container. And so I think the last recommendation was from Mehmet that if this is seen with the new PONSIM, we should close this. If it is not seen with the new PONSIM, then we should close this JIRA. And then we have a question, I think, back to Jono on if you've taken a look at this issue and know if ONF has seen any related, if you've reproduced it.
I haven't used that container, so I haven't seen it.
Okay, so I'm not quite sure. Do we send this back to Sienna for further questions, since they're the one that opened it, or is there anyone else who's using the RG container who can take a look?
Is anybody using it? If no, then we close it or move it out.
I would say just maybe close, because the way this is written, it sounds like a deployment issue. If you deploy the container, I don't know. I think either way, it's not a big thing. If it is an issue, it's very easy to fix.
Okay, so any objections to closing this issue? I can't type today, sorry.
Well, you've been up for a long time.
Calls started early today.
And this is not something like, what I'm just saying, this is not something when we use in PONSIM or is going to use this container, right? Just like if we do the OOT, ONT simulation, do we need a RG simulation at the same time also?
Yeah, you do.
And then if we do the RG simulation, is this what the RG simulation for?
Yeah.
So I think is Suhat actually from Sienna or from Radisys?
I believe
he's from Radisys.
Oh,
no,
Radisys.
He's from
Oh, I thought. Why did
no,
it?
Suraj
Did
is
I
from
say?
Radisys. Unless he's at Sienna now, I don't know.
The address says Sienna. That's Sienna.
Sienna.
This is Suraj.
Oh, that's
so I think
that's a different Suraj. Okay. Well, he's no longer at Sienna. he was based in Sienna in India. It's been a while. He's not here.
Okay, so Sean, you were having some comments about if this is needed for PONSIM.
Right.
We were going back to. So do we need to edit what we have here?
So I already mentioned that a little bit earlier, right? So
yeah.
If this, let's keep it. If the new PONSIM still encounter the issue, then we have to address it.
Okay, so we need someone who will be able to take a look at this then.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone who can take a look at it?
So can Suraj take a look at this again?
He's no longer at Sienna. He left like many months. I think last year.
Okay.
We can take a look at it. You can assign it to Stefan. And I don't know if we will be able to look at it sprint 3, but it's something that we can eventually look at.
Okay.
Okay. And let me just edit this again. So I won't put it in sprint 3 yet, but we at least have it tracked here for our review. Thank you, Ken. And thank you, Sean, for the discussion also. And let's see if I can find my place again. Okay. 483 clear alarms are not working on the edge core adapter and device. And this one is, I think, the latest update we had was just a couple days ago from Raghu, and this is related to old releases of Broadcom, didn't support this, and it needs to be tested with the latest release. So is this something that we think can, let's see, who do we have on? Do we think this one can be tested in Sprint 3 to see if this is reproducible?
Amit, is that something you guys can do?
Okay, so I have a response from Amit, so maybe he is on mute. So, all right, so let me ask.
Yeah, Julie, sorry, I was on mute.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, we will look into this issue.
Okay. Okay. So can I put your name down for the assignee? And you
Yeah,
can,
you can put.
sign it
Yeah, you can
without
put that for
email.
now. Yeah, we will investigate on this. Yeah.
All right. I'll move that one in Sprint 3. Okay. And then the next one, there is 751. We're into the low priority defects right now. So let me ask the group.
Julie, on that one, on that also the one about the not clear. I wonder what if that's the same thing related to the what Venkata is working on also. But this is
now, are you talking about this issue that I have open right now?
No, the one above about the
DH client.
Amit is going to look into that one about the clear alarm.
Oh. Okay. So are you thinking? Let's see. Do we have Venkata on? I think he was earlier. So you were thinking Venkata may be looking at that?
We can also check with that. I think Amit and Venkata can look into that, see whether we're trying to address the same issue.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the next list of items are the low priority defects that were opened. So let me ask the group in terms of time management here. Do we want to spend time going through the low priority defects at this point? See if there are any for Sprint 3, or should those be deferred to a later sprint since they are lower priority? Or do we want to assess them for priority if the priority is still low? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I think that means I will continue. So,
Mia, sorry, Julie. I'll drop off at 11. So for me, it's like any low priority won't be addressed in anything assigned to us won't be addressed in Sprint.
Okay. Okay, then I think what I'll do is just do a quick look at these with the group to see if there's any that need to be bumped up to a higher priority. If it's higher priority, we can target it for Sprint 3. Okay, so I'll just
Julie,
quickly. Yes.
I have to drop off as well, so I'll take a look at my issues and I'll change priority or B class.
Okay. So you'll be looking at the open OLT ones, for example, and then if there are ones that you're expecting to pull in for Sprint 3, just go ahead and map them over also.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Shad. Okay. Then I think
we take a look at 672 list device flow subtest in the VOLTHA integration test suite no longer passes.
Whoops. Sorry, I wasn't trying to go into the edit screen here. I'm just trying to scroll. There we go.
Who opened this ticket?
I believe it was Rich.
It was Rich. Let me double check with him because I got the impression maybe he raised that and he fixed it, but he didn't change the Jira.
Okay, thank you.
Julie, hi, it's Jim from Mariner. Is there a straightforward way for me to find which JIRA items are related to FCAPs? Like, have we been pretty consistent in terms of tagging or labeling, or is it probably just a matter of kind of going through and eyeballing all of the backlog?
There are a couple different ways to do things. So I think you're asking because you signed up to do the alarms and PM related.
That's right.
To work on technical lead for that. So if you see, I just went in, I'll collapse this back up so you can see it. So I'm on the backlog right now. And then you can go into the epics, bring that screen up, and then go through the list. This is one way to get there. There are a couple other ways. We've got logging. I know it's up here somewhere. Where did it go? I must have scrolled past it. Let's see.
Busy.
No. Yeah. Where did I miss it? Okay, well, maybe I have it filtered somehow. You found it?
No, I haven't, but I stumped you.
Okay. No, it's just the lovely thing of sharing the screen on the call. I can't. Let me find a ticket. I know that Tom had opened a bunch of them on alarms. Where are they? Tom, can you hand me a number for? Oh, here we go. Wait, did I find? No, those are some old ones.
There's alarms there. Retrieve OLT alarms.
Yeah, some of the, I think, Jim, some of the alarm or PM
These
information.
are old ones.
Yeah.
Here we go. Oh, okay. You know what? These were opened against the OpenOLT. That's why right. I was looking for a PM story. Okay. So if it was associated with an epic that was called,
FCAPs or something like that, it would appear there.
So it would show up in this list. But it looks like most of these have been opened under the OpenOLT.
Okay, I will. No problem. I'll eyeball through it. We'll figure them out. My plan is to just make sure that I've consolidated them, understood what's open, see if we need to do any rationalization and clean up, and then take ownership. So I just want to make sure that I'm not dropping things on the floor here as I go through the process.
Okay. And then also, once you do have one of the epics, you can go to that link directly, and then it will give you a list of all of the issues that are open for that particular epic.
Got it. Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Okay, let me go back here and
Julie, I think there are more to come in, right?
Yes, there are more issues coming in as well.
Right. So I think we're still in the process of entering those, and whether it's under the VOLTHA or it's under SEBA, I think that's later on. There is another JIRA created, it's called SEBA. So go
ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying. Maybe some of the user story actually is created under the other one too. So
right. So at this point, I only had Mariner signed up for the alarms and PM support scope item, which is more the if we look at one of those stories, if I can get back to my screen here. Trying to scroll my mouse. Let me go into one of those stories again. So the ones that we have open in that category right now are all in this similar format here. It's for the adapter, basically getting that alarm generated and then connected up to the Kafka bus eventually. So we've got the steps. And so I think all of the new ones that were entered by Tom follow this format for the user story. Then we have if I go back to the slides, we have the, related to this, we have the abstraction of the FCAPS management for this, and that likely most of those stories will go under NEM, I believe. So those, I don't have an owner for that work yet, but it may end up being mostly an NEM.
Yeah, there is a meeting this upcoming Tuesday. I think that the proposal from Larry Peterson at the ONF was to sort of convert his core TST meetings moving forward into a CIBA call, which is really, it'll be focused around VOLTHA requirements as the initial reference design, but it's so consider it, really a NEM FCAPS ongoing discussion. So what will be a bit of the tie, Mariner will be a bit of the tie that binds there between, let's say, his discussions there around FCAPS management and inventory and I think the VOLTHA project. We're looking to do it as pragmatically as we can. Like I don't want to tightly couple these projects too much.
Right.
Given NEM might take, it's really an undefined timeline right now. So, we're definitely going to focus more on how do we expose and get those alarms triggered and expose onto the bus. And we'll just make sure we get architectural alignment with NEM as it continues to evolve.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that. And then let me go back here and find my place here in the 3, get back to the backlog. Okay. Then, so Sean, I think we were looking at this one, and was this one you were thinking, did you have someone in mind for this work already?
Yeah, that some of the Lucas ticket, I think I will engage with Venkata to get them resolved.
Okay. So Venkata, I know you're on the phone now. Do you want to take a look at these initially and then see if there are ones you think you could pick up for Sprint 3?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take a look at those.
And if you find them, you can either let me know and I'll assign you and map them into Sprint 3, or you can do that yourself.
Sure.
And so then, Sean, I think this next one may fall in that same category as well.
Right.
Okay. And then Shad did mention that the ones for the OpenOLT, he would look at those offline and update them appropriately. So I'll just take a quick look at that with the community, and if there are any questions we need to capture for Shad, just speak up.
And Shad and Jono, if anything additional help you want, I think Venkata from the Austin can also help. So just let us know.
Awesome, sounds good.
Okay, the next one on OpenOLT 8.17, errors on ONU console. Ingress class for key already configured. And so that one, again, Shad said he'd take a look at priority and appropriate sprint as well.
Yeah, I think this is also related to the bulk flow update, the way that the VOLTHA core sends down all the flows again, so they get re-added.
Okay. And then I think we were taking a, yes, so Ken's going to check on 672. We jumped down to that one. Then we've got vol 425, rest call hangs, so no VOLTHA core instance is running. And, okay, so this one, we have a recent comment from Ken on that. And so likely it will be in the last sprint of 2.0. So we'll move on. The 778.
That's also Lucas
and
ticket.
this one's already assigned to Venkata.
Right.
Okay. So Venkata, is this one that you think you would be looking at in Sprint 3? It looks like it just got assigned to you yesterday.
Yeah, it was assigned yesterday, so I'll be looking at it in Sprint 3.
Okay, let me go ahead and move that one up. Great, thank you
Okay.
for that. Okay, then I know for the newer issues will really be, I think most of those are going to be brought into the sprint by the tech leads, because they've been sorting out the prioritization of the work. But we do have a lot of older tickets that were opened against 2.0, and then also ones that never got associated with a target release or classified as future. So some of these I think we should take a look at, and we'll see how far we get on the call today. So questions before we move on?
Julie, when you say issue, that includes, is it a bug or just user story?
So these are now into user stories. So we've gone over, I tried to bring all the defects up to the top. If they were in 2.0 or targeted for 2.0 in previous assessments, I tried to pull them up to the top of the backlog, since we're supposed to be, closing out defects as well as bringing in new functionality. So I think that's it for the defect discussion today, I hope. And now we're into new functionality or features with user stories. Okay, so this one actually, yes.
This one I just merged the OLT and ONU patches a couple of days ago, so it should be done.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and change this, or actually, Sean, can you change that one to done?
Okay.
Because I can't do it on this screen. I'd have to go to a different one. Thank you, Sean.
One thing is, just a side note, I think, Jono, I think Dave Bainbridge and Kim Kemp and you had been cutting the release, right? And I think Kim has left his current job, so he's no longer available. Do you need additional people to help you out with the cutting release?
Yeah, I think the more people who know how to do it, the better. I guess the task for me and David would be to document the process so that we can onboard other people.
Okay. And maybe that's something I will also ask Venkata to learn how to do. So.
And if I remember correctly, I think on one of our previous calls, we suggested that it would be good for to have one member from every company that's working on code contribution, to have at least one member who is capable of assisting in cutting release. So maybe we can have that as a homework for folks if they are not on that short list right now of companies that are involved in in cutting releases and creating branches and all of that. If they could identify someone, and then that way we could have maybe a quick effort of rather than repeating the onboarding for folks multiple times, then Jono and David could kind of work through the process once with folks. So just a suggestion from me, but something to keep in mind. Okay, then I think let's go over to this one and see if this is one that should be targeted for 2.0. And then if so, if it's one for Sprint 3. So this is Vol 754, add CLI to set, delete, show ONOS IP address and port. So it's currently hard-coded in the VOLTHA OF agent container.
Yeah, it's supplied at configuration time, but I agree it would be useful to be able to set this at runtime.
Should we target this one for 2.0?
Sure.
Okay, and let me just make a note here later. And is this one that we think it's a medium for the priority level?
It's probably actually a low priority.
Okay. And send low. Okay, so I will update that one offline. And then 755, creating Helm chart for PONSIM v2.
Yeah, I think Gobi did some work here. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if this got merged yet or not, but I think
no, this still needs review.
Okay.
Hey, Jono, you have a lot of code to review. If you need any help, let us know.
I'm trying to find my place again. Bear with me. So this one, I think Luca was going to test it. Do we need to ping Luca, or Jono, should I or do you think you would be taking a look at this?
It's not on my radar immediately.
Okay. I'll ask Luca. Okay. And then the next one, 758. So this one, I think we did say we would, this would be for 2.0 though, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
We already have the proposed.
Yeah, it's already basically done.
Contribution there. So I think let me go ahead and move this one into Sprint 3 since it's really in progress. Any objections? Okay. Oh, maybe I did it too soon. Yes, Sean?
No. Okay, so this is for OpenOOT specific. Okay. Yeah, no, it should be. I thought Chad has been working on that. So okay. I think this should be 2.0. Yeah.
Okay. And then let me go on to 758, create a Linux service to automatically start BAL and OpenOLT on the edge core adapter, or on the.
I just moved it to the VOLTHA 2.0.
Pardon?
I just moved that to VOLTHA 2.0. It doesn't have any fixed version assigned on this one, so.
Okay, so 758 is 2.0.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 756, move out of the adapters the creation and management of the logical devices. Any comments on this one?
Luca opened this one. I don't know what that means.
Luca opened this one.
I think this is the issue that we talked about
I think so.
last week. And
right. This is actually the one where we said we were going to open a new ticket, but looks like there's an existing one instead. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll try and create a related to link afterwards to this. So should this one be placed in 2.0 then?
Well, I guess this is a much bigger discussion because I think this isn't a simple thing, right? This is going to be a big change to the API and the core. And so it's a discussion with the community about whether we want to tackle this in this time frame or not.
Do we have any comments from the group that we have on today? And I know some folks have had to drop already that probably would want to weigh in.
Hi, this is Amit. Yeah, so just wanted to understand, as in the reason for this Jira ticket, as in what is the reasoning behind why we want to put the logical device creation at the as an out of the adapter?
The problem that I see right now is that you're gonna let echo on your side. So currently the adapters are responsible for creating the logical devices and the logical ports and maintaining the mapping between the logical things and the physical devices and ports. But right now, this has to be done individually in each adapter, so there's a lot of code duplication. And the other issue is that it can be done differently in each adapter. And so we end up with very different behavior from the northbound of VOLTHA depending on which adapter you're using. So the proposal was to move the management of the logical devices up into the core and have that managed in a coherent way for all adapters.
Yes, so Jano, I think the mapping between the logical and the physical device is still maintained by the core, right? It's just that.
When if you do something like disable a logical port, the mapping, the logic of like figuring out which physical port that corresponds to and disable and calling the corresponding disable call is up to the adapter. There's no core thing which does that for you.
So this is related to the discussion we had on whole 908 last. I think it was last week. So we have a few items captured in the notes.
Okay, maybe I'll go through that and then ask any questions directly on the Jira issue.
Okay, that would be great. So right now, should I leave this one? I think I'll leave it as unassigned in terms of a release. We're not sure if it'd be 2.0 or future at this point. And then we'll target some follow-up discussion, hopefully, on one of our calls in the hopefully next week, I would say. Okay. Then the next item, 573, this one was related to integration testing with Docker Swarm mode. So this one still shows as a medium priority, and we probably need some discussion of this one, if that's still the right priority for this ticket, since we're focused primarily on Kubernetes. And so we still will wait for a readout for the TST once it's formed on what combinations of things we plan to support going forward, how many different permutations we'll continue to maintain. So in terms of target release, this one had been placed in 2.0. Do we think this still would be targeted for 2.0 with the rest of the items we have on the plate for this release? Any views from the group?
I'm wondering whether we can just, whether we can just abandon Dr. Swan.
Well, I think we have to wait for the readout from the TST, which has not yet been formed, before we can abandon it. So I can move it to future.
Yeah.
I can drop the priority, but I don't think we can abandon it till we get a readout.
Let's drop the priority, so at least it's still visible. Once you put in the future, it will not be visible anymore, right? So.
Well, it's still going to be in the backlog, right?
But it's true, but how often people go into the backlog to look for things, right? Only
like
you and I.
Right now. True. Okay. So.
Let's do that. And
whether it's 2.0 or future, it's in the backlog regardless right now. So the question is, do we think it's appropriate for 2.0? And
maybe one. Okay.
If so, we can leave it there.
No, put in the 2.0 VOLTHA future. If someone, I think we probably don't want to, based on the time we have, the 2.0 cut probably will not be able to address this.
That's what I would
so if something we need to be done, we can say we move it to 2.1.
Agreed. Okay. And let me find my place again. Okay. User documentation for Kubernetes support. This would typically come closer to, this is actually, we need to check if this one is still open. Okay. So 570, we do have a closed Garrett, so I'll check with Ken if it's complete.
But user documentation, that's for Kubernetes, okay? It's only addressed.
So yeah, that's why I want to check with him on this.
Okay.
But this was done a while back. Okay. And this one, I don't know if this is still, we had a comment that this should be updated. I don't know when the timing of this change was done.
That's VOLTHA 1.
Back.
Right, that's VOLTHA 1 release.
Right. And March, April, May, June. So this is right at the same time that this change was made. So we need to see if there are updates needed again, I think, for that. And this would probably need to be updated for the description also. 89, we've got about 8 minutes left. So let me maybe check with the group here on where we are. So we still have, probably 200 issues to get through. So I think what I'll do now is for the new items, we'll be having the tech leads bring most of those in. The older issues, I was hoping we'd get through a few more of them today, but we've got a long ways to go. So let me go back to, I think maybe our planning slides at this point. So we've got some work kicking off here. Hopefully we can have some stories come in, maybe starting in sprint 3. We still need an owner for the security side of this. And we also have new user stories that were opened up over the last few days in JIRA as well. So if there's anyone who is willing to take on the technical lead for the security scope item, that would be appreciated. And then I think next week will be, I'll be talking with David for updates. I think he's been out of the office or out of town. Oh, he may be.
He's in Germany right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll see when I can sync up with him on that. So we still have a couple items that need owners. And so we'll continue to work on that. We have some, we've been working on kind of some sprint planning, trying to figure out, if we can achieve this September date, and then what would go in that, and what may need to be deferred to a 2.1. And at this point, I do want to make a call for a request for resources again for OpenOMCI. So we've had some issues on the, mainly related to getting lab equipment set up and everything for the development support we were expecting to have in sprint 2 and potentially sprint 3 for OpenOMCI stack. So Chip is still doing the coding for that. We do have reviewers online, which is good, but we do need more code contributors for OpenOMCI. So in the middle of sprint 3, we're planning to update this. I expect the number to jump up a fair bit unless we get some additional resources identified. So I think we'd started when we had just Chip working on it with an estimate of, I think it was 10 to 12 sprints, if I remember correctly. And so I think it may have been 10. So I'm expecting this number to go up unless we can integrate some more developers into that work. So if you have anyone who would like to contribute in that area, please let me know, please let Chip know, and we'll see if we can get you spun up on that work. Oh, and Chip, I do see you on. Anything else you'd like to add there?
No, that's about right. I'm working on an email trying to lay out my capacity for sprint 3.
Okay. Thank you. And then, so Jim, that's also one item. Once we start looking at the detailed plan for the alarms and PM support, we'll try to figure out if we get an estimate on how many contributors we can get working on that, and then do the evaluation of the story points, with the developers that are working on those, so that we can then get an estimate of the number of sprints that would be required for that, and then find out where that puts us in our timeline. And actually, Jim may have dropped, so so he may hear that on the recording if he listens after. Okay, then I'm about out of time, so let me just quickly go back to the board again and Jono, I think you may need to go on mute, unless you were making a comment.
Sorry.
That's okay, no problem. So then I think, Sean, maybe you and I can take a look at some of these items again in 2.0. I know we've done it recently, but we may need to go through again, reassess priorities, since we made a dent in it on this call, but we've got a long ways to go with the items that are still scoped in for 2.0. So I think we've made a lot of progress with cleanup and with the changes that have come in recently. And let me see where we are here. So we're getting there, but we have a lot of story points to be added in for new items. So, and we still have a lot of work to identify for Sprint 3. So again, take a look at the backlog. If you have time offline, that would help us out greatly. And we'll cover more on the calls as we have time. But we do need to allocate some time for the new user stories as well. So Tom Moore, do I still have you on the bridge?
Yes.
Okay, so I know you got some new stories entered in for security. We'd had the high-level discussion with the group. We don't have a tech lead assigned yet for security. So I'd been hoping to have maybe a breakout session once we had a tech lead assigned, so we could do a dedicated call for security. I think at this point, you and I probably need to sit down and look at the prioritization of items as best we can from the feedback you got on the presentation you gave as well, and see if we can identify the MVP items for 2.0 and see if we can take a look at that.
Let me make a general. I have a general comment here, which could help in terms of identifying resources, because I think the net is wider than just VOLTHA. So as everyone knows, SIBA is also addressing orchestration of the pod, which includes other virtual functions and containers deployed in a pod. Also, Awesome, which is not a VOLTHA project, but it is an ONAP project. It has to have the same ONAP security requirements as VOLTHA or NEM. So anybody that's a security resource development, architecture development wise, that's interested in this area of security could help across those three areas. The third one, depending upon whether they're also involved in Awesome.
So that's a good point, Tom.
Right.
Go ahead.
The first step I think we'll want to do is discuss this in the core SIBA calls, because I think that's the most immediate and relevant area for our resource here, and then applying user stories for that as well, and how to best do that. Unfortunately, we started writing this for VOLTHA before that started, but we can handle the way it needs to work over in SIBA and Cord, and I want to discuss it in those meetings over there.
Okay, all right. And with that, we are at 1/2 hour, so we're out of time for today. Any last comments from the group before I drop the bridge? Okay, thank you everyone for your time. And Sean Ying, you and I will, I think, need to set up another meeting to continue kind of going through the backlog a bit more. And then we'll try and put updates into JIRA for specific people to comment on and so forth, if there's any additional cleanup we can do. And with that, I will go ahead and close the bridge for today and stop the recording. So thanks again, and I will talk to everyone soon. And also, we will be looking for a time slot for some additional meetings with discussion on technology profiles. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.